I've been trying to get the 35mm film look on digital for the past few months now, and today I'm going to be reviewing Dehancer, a popular film emulation plugin. Little disclaimer here, I did get sent this plugin to review, however I'm not getting paid for this, and they did not see this video before it went live. A couple other things to note, I have been trying all sorts of different plugins from a bunch of different brands, but this is one of them that has really stood out to me because it's been easy to replicate the film look. I think a lot of different plugins work well in certain instances, but Dehancer to me has been the go-to standard for me for a lot of my workflow recently because you can pick your camera and actually pick your film stock and it looks exactly like that film stock. Let's first talk about what I do like. Now, what I love the most is how accurate Dehancer is. A lot of other film emulations on the market kind of vaguely creatively emulate the stocks. However, Dehancer is super by the books and literal with their interpretations. To my knowledge, they shot real footage of the actual film stocks, and they also shot footage of these cameras, and they tailored the look to that. Now, not only do they have the look baked down, all of the adjustments that you make feel like you're making them in the developer process. This is really important because rather than following a complicated node graph, all of your edits tend to happen in one main node tree. Another thing I should mention, Dehancer is super accessible. They are on a bunch of different platforms. For this video specifically, we're going to be talking about the DaVinci Resolve plugin. However, I tried the Premiere and After Effects, as well as the Lightroom and the iOS app. I'm not going to be talking about the rest of those today. However, all of them are very awesome because they all are super similar to DaVinci Resolve. The other thing that I really liked the most was color matching different cameras. Basically, you select your camera model and the version of log that you're shooting in, and then that's what the look gets baked into. So us DaVinci users, that would be the color space transform is actually baked in the entire look. Why this is so cool is I've taken footage that I've shot on my Sigma FP, my Fuji X-H2S, my Red Komodo, put them all next to each other and put the same look on, and it's exactly the same. One of the great things about it is it's easier to match cameras this way if this is the plugin that you're using. I've also found it very easy to get a usable image quickly. I want a plugin that can get me my look quickly, not necessarily always spending, an hour per shot as I used to when I was starting out. There are also a few disadvantages that I've noticed with this plugin that I feel like Dehancer could improve. I think my number one complaint with the plugin is that it's all in one node. This is kind of a win-win or a lose-lose depending on how you look at it. Personally, it's a lose in my opinion because I like to use my own personal node tree and incorporate other people's looks or plugins throughout the node tree. So it's my main corrections and looks with their finishing touches. And it's a problem because in this instance, all of your edits tend to happen in one node. I know you can use like Cineon Film Log or Rec 709, but I've never been able to use the exact effects that I want. Dehancer can improve by adding in certain effects, like certain parts of that main effect into different nodes. So if I could just handle the film grain, and it's like the Dehancer film grain that I could put on top of the rest of my grade, or just the Kodak 2083 film print, or the film selection, separating these out could actually give colorists more flexibility and allow us to incorporate parts of Dehancer in our workflow and parts of our own creative workflow to create a much better overall grade, because sometimes I just get a little frustrated by being restricted by kind of needing to follow the rules of the Dehancer world. Another thing for me that's been a little bit hard to wrap around is the very distinct look. For some of my projects, I've really loved Dehancer, and for stuff that's specifically narrative and commercial work, I've found when the style deserves film look, it deserves film look. But a lot of my work now has actually kind of tended to go the direction of clean digital looking footage, and so Dehancer isn't always the best look for it. I know you can turn down the grain and do these things, but I personally think Dehancer is the strongest when focused on film looks. So I kind of think Dehancer could do a little bit better by maybe making another plugin that's completely separate, that's designed just for color grading and dealing with color that's not necessarily film accurate. Now I want to actually dive into the overall grade, okay? So we're going to open up DaVinci Resolve here, And I had a timeline of a bunch of different kinds of footage here. And so as we go here, we're going to go into our DaVinci Resolve library and go to Dehancer Pro. Now this was shot on the ARRI Alexa Mini LF, so we're going to choose ARRI, and then we're going to choose Alexa 35, and we were in log C34. We're going to look at our film profiles. You have so many options to pick and choose from here. I really do appreciate these film looks. You know, some of us really like Portra 400. I was a huge Ultramax fan back in the days of high school. Ektachrome is also a classic. You know, you have your Ilford, all sorts of amazing plugins. For the sake of this video, we are going to go with Vision 3 500T. Right here we have our exposure controls, and I kind of just want to walk through how I would grade this image. Now, if we're going for a more stylized look, which this project definitely calls for, I'm going to choose the 2383 print. And then we'll go into the developer, we're going to enable that, and I like to add a bunch of contrast. This is really important in my opinion because it helps us deal with those washed out looks, which we will talk about in a little bit as well. Now, if we go down to film compression, that's just going to handle the whites better. And right off the bat, I'm a huge fan of this. I'm gonna add a little bit more color boost and a more contrast. And I am really digging this contrasty look. There was also like a quarter pro mist on this shot, so that's another fun fact. Now, if we look at the film grain here, it's super beautiful and honestly quite amazing. We can turn on the vignette, and right there, I think we have our look. Now, just to show an example, I can take this second clip and apply the grade, and boom. Completely different shot. If I pull down the exposure, you know, that could be your grade, like that could easily be your starting point on your grade. And it's as simple as just doing a little bit of color boost and pulling down the exposure, and that right there could be your grade. This right here is why it's so awesome to me, because these shots are completely differently exposed in different lighting conditions, and we can just vaguely apply this. So I'm going to go here, apply our same grade, just as an example to showcase this awesome look. Now, this is all great and all, but I want to do a completely different look, so we're going to move to some studio work. So I'm going to take Dehancer Pro. This was shot on the Red Raptor. So we can go down to Red and select V Raptor, and that is our color space. Now, right off the bat, this is looking really good. Vision 3 is so awesome. It's definitely my go-to stock on Dehancer as of late, and you can truly get your different looks that you desire. And then I still like to add a little bit of contrast to add a little bit, and color boost, which is a little bit of saturation. Right off the bat, that is a awesome looking grade. I'm a huge fan. Now I want to talk about the halation next. So this is an awesome shot to do that. And we are going to go down to halation and enable bloom. Now, one of the things about Dehancer that I love so much is Dehancer is the best example of halation I've ever seen on a film emulation plugin. I think halation is super overdone in post-production, and it's kind of become like a TikTok thing, honestly. But Dehancer gives you the ability to really fine-tune those adjustments to the point where the halation doesn't seem like it's too much. Now, I want to talk about one of the other cool things that I've used Dehancer for. This is going to be the example of Super 8 film emulation. So if we go over to Red and we select our Raptor, and now we can go down to the overscan right here. And if we choose Super 8 and we enable it, we have an automatic built-in little preset. Now, I know some people don't love the little preset on the side because it's not, you know, ideal, but personally, I'm a huge sucker for them, and they're really easy, they're super trendy, they're very in right now, and it's a super easy way to get a basic film look. And then we can go in here and we can choose film breathing, which is when you roll film, the film shakes a little bit. and getting that grain to look right. So we're going to choose 8mm grain right there. We can go to full quality. Another thing I should know about Dehancer that's really great is I have an M2 Pro MacBook Pro, so not like the highest end, but a pretty decent MacBook. My computer can handle almost all resolutions with Dehancer. I've had a little bit of issues when I go heavy on it, but like I half res and that's like 8K raw footage, you know? Other plugins, I tend to have to go to a quarter, and so it's nice that I can really see what it will look like and how it changes the resolution and the feel of the image. And once again, we can easily take this, apply our grade, realize we need to do some exposure adjustments and maybe a little bit of push pulling. And right there, I mean, that to me looks like Super 8 and it's super quick. I think that's the appeal. You can go deeper and definitely dive into it, but when I'm using Dehancer, it's getting a film look quickly on the timeline that I can refine later. Now let's look at some Fuji X-H2S footage. So right here we have some footage shot on one of my favorite cameras of all time, and that is the Fuji X-H2S. It's actually what you guys are watching this video on right now. And this was shot in California. So we can easily grab our camera, and right off the bat, that is looking so good. The look is there, and we are going to turn on a few other things. We're going to turn on the bloom, we're going to turn on the film breadth, and the gate weave. So right off the bat, that to me looks so good. And I like to have the vignette enabled, and then we're going to do some slight color boosting here. Literally not that bad, but I want it to kind of look like 16 mil. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the grain, choose 16 mil. We're going to go into the halation, choose 16 mil, and the bloom, choose 16 mil. And so it kind of comes together to be an awesome experience, and I found myself really enjoying the grading process because I was like, wow, these tools are super easy and it's super fast to get an image that I'm honestly very happy with. This to me looks like ungraded 16 mil. We can go over here, apply our same grade, boom, looks beautiful. Maybe we want to add a little bit of a temperature adjustment, and just like that, I would literally post that. Like, I am happy about that. The exposure controls feel like film, how there's the flexibility and it's not as linear as digital. And I don't know really how Dehancer did this. So that's just a little bit of a look into Dehancer. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know, and I will see you next week. Peace.